Hey, what's up, Nerd fam? It's your boy Rashawn. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 different characters or teams I believe they should be making series on for Disney Plus for the MCU. As we know, they've released a couple of series for Disney Plus that tie into the movies in the MCU. Now, obviously, we've seen in some other videos, I'm not really fond of how they've been handling it, and obviously I fear for this stuff, but I'm thinking if they're going to do some series, which series should be on Disney Plus so they can actually expand on, not just try to cram everything in 2 hours, and really get the most out of these characters, because not only do they do well for the characters that are in it, but they tie into ones that they can introduce in the future. So without further ado, let's get into them. Now, number 10 has to be Young Avengers, because we already see them assembling in various parts of the MCU. But I believe they'd be wasted in a movie, because you want to make sure that you actually get the proper character development. And if you've already got Disney Plus, why not use it? And obviously, it'd be kind of cool to see Patriot and all them fighting various villains, not just the one villain they have there, whether it be Kang, or seeing them even cross over with the regular Avengers and see what they're going to do there. Because maybe when they finally appear in a movie, it could be in an Avengers movie, but for their own show, for their development, I think Disney Plus would work wonders for them. Number 9 would be Agents of ATLAS. Now, we already have Jimmy Woo in the MCU, albeit he's not the same Jimmy Woo that leads Agents of ATLAS, but they could write and have him change to a person who would actually lead a team like that. And I love Agents of ATLAS because it has a whole bunch of different brand new original Asian characters which should be seen. I wonder if they're actually going to go this way. I know they're about to release Shang-Chi, which is, their representation piece, but I think that they would really benefit off of having a show like Agents of ATLAS to show a whole bunch of different diverse heroes who happen to all be Asian, but think in different ways. I think that would do really, really well in terms of not necessarily representation, but creativity. Daughters of the Dragon is number 8. Now, 2 of these characters we've already seen in a show. That would be Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. However, they're most likely going to get recast, which it is what it is. And this, if you know any of my other videos, you understand that I am very partial towards martial arts physical based shows and movies, and this would be awesome because it's exactly what this would be, and it would have 2 strong women leads, exactly what people are really looking for, and they can have some of their own characters too, and then cross over with a possible Luke Cage, a possible Daredevil, a possible Iron Fist. So this leads to so many things, even a Defenders thing, and that's really what I'm thinking about when it comes to these shows. Is they have their own show, but they link to something else, right? They can always pop up somewhere else in a movie later, but this is where we establish who they are. So yeah, Daughters of the Dragon. Number 7, for me, a personal favorite, Alpha Flight. Now this would kind of serve as a precursor to another one that's coming up way later down this list. Obviously, it does involve mutants, except they're in Canada, they have their own team. Matter of fact, the leader is actually the cousin to a very famous mutant in Wolverine. And obviously we have members of his team like North Star, who would definitely help out with the LGBT characters, because he is the first character in a major comic book company to say I'm gay on there. So that'd be, if they're looking for that, they're there. They have tons of cool characters. Why not? And also they can cross over into multiple things. They can cross over with the Avengers, they can cross over with the X-Men, tons of different characters here. So why not? Diversity, not only how they look, but even diversity in thought. And they can even talk about the whole Weapon X program too. Why not? Now, number 6 is actually one of my top 5 favorite heroes, and one of the guys that's on their shirt, Nova. I believe this would be awesome because this would be like our version of a Green Lantern, even though I think that's what they thought they were going with that with the Captain Marvel movie, but right? This would literally be our Green Lantern. Now, Richard Rider, the first Nova that we know of, would be awesome to see because he's kind of a mix between like Spider-Man and Hal Jordan and all that. He comes off very young, wisecrack. He gets his powers from Roman Day and winds up going up there and becoming the Nova, eventually having to have the entire Xandarian world mind in them, and it leads to a whole bunch of cool adventures and really cool villains like ANNIHILUS and stuff like that. And this will definitely lead to other things because he's part of a certain team and he teams up with quite a few people, and obviously he can help out the Avengers, he can help out the X-Men, and this will lead to tons of other cosmic adventures and have him pop up in other cosmic movies, maybe other Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Maybe they'll show stuff with Quasar and all types of things like that. So yes, I think number 6, Nova, is necessary for them to really expand that part of the universe and especially put it into Disney Plus. Also, you could also have the other guy that's on here, because it can have season 1 or 1 and 2, Richard Rider, and eventually when he disappears like he does in the comics, then we can bring in Sam Alexander. So it has some legs to it. Why not? Number 5 is another personal favorite of mine, Night Thrasher. He's pretty much almost like a black Batman. Like, his parents get killed, they're billionaires, he inherits that, but he also gets adopted by a guy who also raises him to like go into like peak physical human condition. He learns all these type of martial arts styles and then becomes the leader of his own superhero team later on, and even a mentor to another famous hero named Rage, which a lot of people don't know. But what I like about him, something that you're going to hear me say a lot, is he's also another original black character. I love that about him because a lot of people ask for these characters and then they just go with the whole tokenized version, but you don't need to with people like him. Like, he also has like this cool skateboard motif with him. He's extremely serious, and he can stand toe-to-toe with some of the best fighters that they have in Marvel. Not every single one, but quite a few of them. And I guess that leads me to the next series I think they should make. Number 4 would have to be the New Warriors, which Nova and Night Thrasher, and Night Thrasher is the leader of this team. So that's important, having a character like him be the leader of a team that has pretty cool members in it, like Speedball and Namorita, and etc. And then even having like their own villains like Cyanex, like to fight them. So they'd be visually appealing as well. So they have their own story. They have characters that branch off and do other things themselves. Why not? It gives a nice little variable to the things that we're already seeing. I don't see why we're not doing it. I think there's tons of legs on a show like this. And they have also had stories where they've interacted with the X-Men and stuff like that, and even the Avengers. So just so we're on the same page here, almost every single thing that I'm naming here interacts with other stories, but they can live on their own and have their own stuff as a solo without having to rely on other people constantly coming in. That's really the motif. Hopefully you understand why I'm coming from here. Let's get to the next entry. Number 3 for me, White Tiger, or Hector Ayala. I believe he is the first Puerto Rican superhero. Also martial arts based, so I'm gonna be partial towards that. Now obviously he uses an amulet to give him enhanced abilities. Actually, in one of the first issues they show him in, he's in like a martial arts tournament and stuff like that, which is pretty awesome. Now why I like this character is not only to get like an original Latino character, but also after season 1, if you wanted to, it can go from him to Ava and then Angela. So that would go from him, his sister, and then his niece, who all carry on that mantle later on. So it would have 3 seasons, once again, have the legs, and he also interacts with Spider-Man in the comic book. You can have him interact with Iron Fist, a ton of different people. And once again, original, you wouldn't need to tokenize him. You wouldn't even have to swap anything. He is who he is, right? And he even goes so far, if you ever read any of the comics, like he's even speaking Spanglish, like he's very even culturally relevant. So yeah, White Tiger. Number 2 is a biggie. It could easily be number 1. I guess we can discuss if you want to switch it up. But that would be the X-Men. And not necessarily just the X-Men, but all the characters that are part of that. Because it could have different teams. You could do X-Force, X-Factor, Excalibur. And literally you can have those have all their own shows. And then when it's time for them to come together, you can have these little like collaboration specials on Disney+. Why not? That'd be awesome to curate, because you want to increase the value of Disney Plus by adding so much content that people just go, oh my god, like this is amazing, I gotta put my money towards it. And X-Men, literally, they really don't need to interact with the X-Men. With the Avengers. They don't need to. They have so many villains themselves, so many different issues they have to solve themselves, and different nuances. Their characters don't think alike. And this is actually something that X-Men has always really been about. Having so many characters, different powers, leading on different places. They can either stay on Earth and even end up in a cosmos somewhere. But I think they can even have their own section of the MCU where they really don't even have to interact with much of anyone else. So absolutely, number 2 has to be the X-Men. And no, there's so many characters that you really don't even have to focus on, just like staples like Wolverine. Like, Wolverine is cool, but there's so much more. Number 1 for me is a little controversial, because I think that I'm scared about this one too, and that would be Blue Marvel. Now, Blue Marvel is an excellent character. It's an original black character made by Kevin Grevioux, the same guy who wrote the Underworld movies as well, right? Now, what's really cool about this character is obviously, like, this guy is nigh all-powerful, almost like Superman, right? His powers, everybody just focuses on him being black and powerful, but it's about the fact that his powers don't help him with his biggest failures, which is when he lost his wife and even one of his sons. Like, all that doesn't help him. Because of how powerful he is, he even has a hard time relating to human beings anymore, because his level of self-consciousness is just so much above, which is why the Watcher is one of his best friends, because one of the only people that he can actually talk to. But if you do a series based on Blue Marvel, it can be several period pieces. Once when he was in the 60s, where he had to, face like racism, and that's in the incarnation of this character, there is racism, right? Because he was around when, Kennedy was president. People didn't know he was black underneath the mask, and he wound up, faking his death, going to the moon, and literally marrying the person who was there to spy on him. And it could take place all the way from the 60s, 70s, 80s, up until now. And, to explain it, you could be like, S.H.I.E.L.D. was being dishonest, pretty much the files on him got lost, or reality got altered, whatever. There's some really good writing that you can put to show it and why he's not there. And he can almost be the proverbial big gun that they pull out every time they cannot beat a certain person, because he is that strong. And then we can get a chance to actually justify people like SENTRY and Hyperion with beings like him. But I'm scared that he'll just get whittled down to a whole bunch of like social issues instead of the complexities of what makes his character so really he's awesome. Like, he's awesome, man. So that'll be my number one. Now, those are not all the characters that could be used in the MCU for Disney Plus. Definitely not. But those are the ones that immediately came to mind that I figured would be the closest and easiest for them to transition to right now, based off of what's already present within the MCU. Now, could there be other ones that you can just write in? Sure. But I'm figuring, just out of good writing, so you don't have to, do what they're doing in Eternals, to have to like almost re-explain the universe in order to even include them, I figure, why don't you just use this Disney Plus to just use episodes to really flesh out a character, and not try to cram in a character with like 30 years of history in 2 hours. If that makes sense. Let me know. Who else would you like to see have a show in MCU? Do you know any of these characters? Are there some that you don't know about? Do you want to learn more about them? I can make a video about that. Let me know. Let's discuss. Enter the Nerd.